Hello and welcome to Incited. Each week, I want to highlight a student pursuing something that they really care about. I'm Haley, and as much as I love listening to podcasts, I recently noticed a significant lack of podcasts aimed at high schoolers. From businesses to books to the arts, the possibilities are really endless for my generation to educate, inspire, and change the world. In today's episode, I'm talking to Ryan Lin, a current high school student who is the current Senior Vice President of Curriculum at Computer Engineers of the Next Generation, or CENG for short. CENG is a nonprofit organization that offers free coding classes for children in underrepresented communities. Through CENG, Ryan has taught many different classes in various coding languages, as well as helping put together CENG's annual hackathon. All right, so thank you so much for joining me today on Incited. Can you introduce yourself, like your name and like why you're here?
Okay. So my name is Ryan Lin, and I'm a junior at high school, and I'm here to talk about my passion and what I've been doing, and that it includes my work at an organization called CENG and my passion for violin.
Well, that's awesome. First of all, how long have you been playing the violin for?
So I've been playing for about 6 years, and I started in fifth grade.
Awesome. And then how did you get into playing the violin?
Well, it's a funny story actually. So I started by playing cello in fifth grade. It was like, as a little kid, it was really cool seeing all the other kids playing with such a big instrument. But then I quickly realized that it's such a pain to bring such a big instrument to school every day. But I still love the sound of the string instruments and what it could produce. So, well, I switched because I was lazy. So I switched to violin. But then I fell in love with it. I love the sounds it produced. And I just kept going.
That's really awesome. And then do you play in an orchestra at school or outside of school?
So I've been playing in the chamber orchestra at school, and I've been in the orchestras high school and middle school. So that is my 6th year in school orchestra. And then
Wow.
outside of that, I played in the San Jose Youth Symphony for about 2 years, and I stopped during the lockdown.
Nice. So introduce us a little more to SANG. Like, what's the goal of the organization?
So CENG is a nonprofit organization, and CENG is Computer Engineers of the Next Generation. And the mission is to inspire underrepresented minorities in our community to develop an interest in computer science. And at CENG, we host free classes and events related to computer science with the goal, again, of inspiring underrepresented minorities to develop an interest in computer science. And so we have weekly Wednesday classes and Saturday classes, and annually we'll host events such as the hackathon or Hour of Code to spread knowledge. And we do this because computer science is not really a subject open to everybody. Like, although we might not realize, computer science can be expensive because you do need internet, computer, and to be able to learn this, parents need to be able to afford classes. So with saying what we've been trying to do is to push computer science out to everybody, um, and because discrimination and all that, we believe that everybody should have access to this education.
That's a really awesome goal and like what you've been doing with the organization. Were you involved with starting SANG?
No, I was not. So sang was started many years ago by a student in Los Altos High School, and I only joined about 4 years ago.
Wow. How did you get involved with SANG?
This is a weird story, but the person who started saying is a family friend, so they're my parents' friend, and they asked me if I wanted to take some coding class, and at that time I was like, sure, I don't really know much about coding, but I guess it'd be cool to experiment. So I took one class, and then that inspired me to code a lot. Um, so then the family friend asked me if I wanted to become a volunteer. So I did start teaching class, and I remember that was really scary for me, but I taught one class, and then I was like, oh my god, this is actually fun. And I really like the idea of helping others and the goal that Sang has. But yeah, it started in Los Altos High School and it's been expanding over the years.
Awesome. Do you have like a favorite coding language, or is there a specific coding language that you also teach in at Sang?
So Sang teaches Scratch, JavaScript, and Python, and then we also do classes like Roblox game design and Minecraft engineering for fun. But my favorite coding language is Python.
Nice. When you first joined Sang, did you run into any roadblocks, like especially with teaching your first class? Because you mentioned that you were nervous about that.
Yeah, so I'm definitely not a great public speaker, and being in front of a huge crowd and just talking, like that really scared me. And then the stress that I had presenting myself to all these strangers, that was the main thing.
Well, I can imagine that it's gotten better since then. How many classes have you taught for Sang?
That is good question. So we teach classes in 6 week sessions, one class per week, and we have 4 sessions a year, I believe, and each session we have a Saturday and a Wednesday class. So I don't have a number, but a lot of classes now.
Nice. And then how many people, like both volunteers as well as participants, are involved with Sang?
So Sang, I'd say probably over 100 volunteers. I don't have an exact number, but we do have a ton of volunteers, around 100, I guess more than 100. And then for the classes, as in the participants and students, we do have about 40 students per class, and it's per class. So maybe about 40 students for Python, another 40 for JavaScript each session, and then another 40 for Scratch. So we do have a lot of students signing up every
That's
session.
really cool. And oh, sorry. But that's really interesting. And then are you guys mostly based in the Bay Area or what?
So we are based in the Bay Area, but one thing is that over the pandemic, we switched to online meetings, and this has allowed us to really spread word about Sang and grow our organization. So now we actually have volunteers, some volunteers from other countries like Singapore, and students from all over the world taking our classes.
That's really cool. That you have people just from so many different places around the world. Obviously, teaching classes like multiple times, like throughout a 6 week session, like especially you said that you taught every Wednesday, right?
So I used to only teach on Saturday, but now I teach Wednesdays and Saturdays.
Oh, okay. So Wednesdays and Saturdays. That's got to take up a lot of time. Has being a part of Sang affected your school life or social life at all?
Um, yeah, so if I can just pull up my calendar. So as my role as a senior vice president now, I teach classes and I hold meetings to discuss maybe our curriculum updates and our event updates. So this week I was hosting office hours on 2:15 to 5:15. And then on Wednesdays I teach class from 4 to 6. And then like we'd have meetings on Saturday. So for example, we have a meeting about the hackathon, which is an event we host in March on Saturday from 2:30 to 3:30, and then I teach class at 4 until 6. And then we have some more meetings on Sunday. But yes, this has definitely affected my school life and social life. I think that's what you said. Um, and it has taught me that I had to manage my time well and that I have to get my priorities right. But yes, it has definitely affected my school life.
Do you have any advice for any current high school students in regards to balancing school with friends and also outside projects?
So, one thing is definitely organization. So, when I first entered Sang, I was just a student in 8th grade and I wasn't really organized. But at Sang, we have many spreadsheets all in Google Drive that we have every single thing planned out. And I took inspiration from that and I literally plan out everything I have to do now. And So on my calendar, I have all my meetings marked, I have all my homework assignments marked, and basically, um, we just one thing is to just be organized, and that help a lot, and that can definitely help with balancing school and everything.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. And I've sort of been feeling that, especially with recently starting this podcast. You mentioned before that you were the senior vice president of CENG. What are your extra responsibilities as the senior vice president?
So I'm actually the senior vice president of curriculum.
Oh,
Um, so, but as a senior vice president of curriculum, I have to work with the curriculum team to develop the curriculum that we use to teach our students. So we have meetings pretty frequently to discuss updates, and we've been developing new curriculum like the Roblox class that I talked about. We started that over summer, and my team we built the curriculum, and we actually had a lot of success in that class. A lot of students joined. So one that's developing curriculum. Then we always take in parent feedback and then see how we can improve our curriculum. And then for the events part, like our hackathon, those do require their own curriculum because the hackathon we host at CENG is a 2-day event where students code for the majority of the day, and we teach them how to code, and then they develop a project, and then they compete with others. So we do work for a couple of months discussing that curriculum for that as well. So definitely a lot more time I have to invest.
go a little bit more into detail about preparing for the hackathon. You said that it takes multiple months to put together the curriculum and it's a 2-day event. So I guess
Yeah.
explain a little bit more about like exactly what a hackathon is as well.
So the hackathon is sort of a coding competition. And a lot of organizations host a hackathon, and there are a lot of hackathons as well for professional programmers to earn cash prizes and stuff. But as saying, our hackathon is a 2-day event, like I said. But the thing with the hackathon that we have is that you don't need any experience at all, and we will teach you the basics of coding and then give you a project outline. Let's say you have to build a tic tac toe game or build this racing game before this time, this day. And then we will have judges and guest speakers to talk about the projects. But as for the planning part, obviously we need to develop the curriculum, and then there's a bunch of back end advertising and then fundraising stuff that we have to do, and it takes multiple months because it is one of our larger projects at sang.
That's really cool that you're able to provide this opportunity to kids. And then how many kids usually participate in each hackathon?
I think around 100 kids will usually participate in the hackathons,
Wow, that's a
and
lot.
I think maybe even more than 100 kids. But for our other event, the Hour of Code that we do, I believe in 2020 we had almost 200 kids, and it was put together by 16 volunteers.
I think that that's really awesome that you've been able to host these like huge events for coding and like having like 100 to like even like 200 kids. That's got to be definitely a lot of work. And then do you have a favorite event or like class to teach?
So my favorite class to teach is the Python class because so our curriculum works is that the first you take Scratch first, so there are 3 levels for Scratch, and then JavaScript 3 levels for that, and then Python. So I like to teach Python because usually the kids we get are more mature and experienced, and it's easier to work with.
Oh, nice. Do you have any specific plans for like the future of saying like possibly new classes maybe or different events? Like what's going to happen in the next few months?
So, well, we're always trying to grow our organization and obviously find new volunteers. But basically the goal for saying is just to inspire the underrepresented minorities, and the more we can do that, the better. And that's the goal But we've done some new classes we've been working on. I said like the Roblox class, we taught a beginning version of that class over summer, and right now I'm working with my team to develop an intermediate and advanced class for Roblox game design. But that's what we have so far.
I can imagine that the Roblox classes, like as you said before,
Yes.
like that first one was popular. Um, I have to ask, do you have a favorite Roblox game?
Okay. Well, I don't play Roblox anymore, but I remember when I was maybe in sixth grade, Jailbreak was my favorite.
That one's a classic.
That one's a classic. I don't play it anymore though.
Nice. Is there anything that you wish that you had known, going into saying and like becoming the senior vice president of curriculum that maybe would have helped you at the beginning?
I definitely wish I knew the value of teamwork, and that is something that's really really important because Sang was really one of the first time I worked with such a large team to develop the organization, and working in such a big team, well, you can have great outcomes, but it's super hard to plan meetings and all that.
Are there any specific like moments or maybe something that another saying team member has like said to you that really stuck with you or that I guess represents sort of the goal of the organization? If not, then it's fine. I just thought I should ask.
uh, Sorry, I can't think of anything at this moment.
Yeah, no, that's understandable. How many volunteers are usually teaching a class like at once?
So I'd say about 5 to 8 for a class. We would have a senior mentor, a lead teacher, and then some floaters, and then obviously a few teachers for each of the levels. So beginning, intermediate, and advanced. And usually we have around 5 to 8.
So I just wanted to ask, how would a normal class be structured? Like what's the schedule from you said I think they're an hour long usually, but just how does that work?
So classes are about an hour 30 long, but all the volunteers will usually join at 4. While class starts at 4:15, joining at 4 allows us to prepare ourselves, get talking with the other teachers, and also just look over the classes and ask questions if we need. So we have 15 minutes to do that, and then from 4:15 to 4:30 is when our students join. And because these students are usually elementary schoolers, we use icebreakers to get them talking. So usually these will be little riddles or jokes, or sometimes games like Scribble that we have the students play to get them talking. And this we use this time, well, to get them talking, and because setting up classes requires time, so we do Zoom, and we do classes in breakout rooms. So depending on number of students, we need to create breakout rooms for an advanced class, an intermediate class, and usually we have a lot of students in beginning. So a couple breakout rooms for beginning. So we'll do that during the icebreakers time. And then we also have to mark attendance. And we always do this on a Google Sheet. We just mark if the student's present or not. So we do that until 4:30. And then usually from 4:30 to 5 is the first part of our class, and this is where we do the first part of our lesson, and then 5 to 5:10 we have a short 10-minute break, to let the students do whatever they want, and I think this is useful to keep their engagement so they're not sitting through a long class, at once. So then we have class from 5 until 5:45, and this is where we finish the second part of class. And then usually from 5:45 to 6 we have a teachers debrief meeting, where we basically talk about how our classes went and how we could improve the classes. So we talk about anything we noticed. And then we have our classes in 6-week sessions. Usually at the end of the 6 weeks, we would have a parent presentation where we present to the parents about what SANG is. We give them a thank you for taking our class, and then we also give awards to students. Like we have an award of completion, an award of completion and full attendance, and then usually we'd have some special awards like the Outstanding Student Award or the Most Spirited Student Award. And one thing that we do before and after class is send out emails to the parents. So we send out a couple emails before class, say that, oh, hey, class is starting. Um, Make sure you're on time. And then after class, we send out recap emails, just in case the students couldn't miss the class or they missed something. We give them a video or slideshow of what we covered, and then we also tell them that, oh, we have office hours on Tuesdays that you can come, Tuesdays and Sundays actually, that you can come in and ask questions if needed. So that is kind of how our class works.
That's a really awesome lesson plan, and I know especially because you mentioned that you were working with elementary schoolers, that can definitely be difficult, but I think, like, what you have, like, that's a really good plan. Um,
Thank you.
do you have any advice for maybe somebody I mean, I don't think any elementary schoolers are listening to this podcast, but maybe middle schoolers, high schoolers, or even college students wanting to get involved with coding or teaching coding?
Yeah, so basically find motivation to learn coding. That's one of the main things because a lot of people, well, they'll look for classes and that's really hard. But there are a lot of resources online that you can use to get into coding. There are many YouTubers that teach coding, and there are many online forums and discussions that you can use if you have problems in coding with coding. So coding is really a thing that anybody can get into, and as long as you have the motivation, you can get into coding. Just you can take advantage of all the resources that you have access to.
And I think that that's awesome advice, especially, with like the rise of like computer science and coding. Like, I know some schools have started to implement like coding class requirements as well. But yeah, I just think that that's really good advice. Okay, if you're enjoying Incited so far, make sure that you subscribe on whatever podcast platform you're listening on. And be sure to follow Incited on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads, all under at Incited Podcast. That's at INSIGHTED Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads. Also, you can go check out my website at incitedpodcast.com. Okay, so I gotta ask, have you received any like awards or like have there been any outcomes from your passion for computer science? And then also, do you plan on like pursuing this maybe later in life?
So I have received a couple of awards. So my first year doing CENG, I was just doing it for fun. I didn't realize what I was really getting into until I heard about the President's Volunteer Service Award. So that's one thing I got my first year I sang. And I got the Bronze Award with 50 hours. And then in 2022, I kind of forgot about the award, but I was doing so much, I was getting into sang so much that I got, I think, around 150 hours that allowed
Wow.
me for in that year, which qualified me for the Gold Presidential Award. And then this year, I think I hit about around 200, so I qualified for a gold again. I also did a project in ninth grade, an English project that was to write a letter to somebody. So I wrote a letter to Joe Biden talking to him or telling him to spread knowledge and basically make this education available to everybody, and actually got a response, a
Wow.
letter back from Joe Biden. I can read it if you want.
I
um,
mean, yeah, like go.
the letter just says, "Dear Ryan, thank you for sharing your thoughts with me. Vice President Harris and I love hearing from students. Even at your young age, you have the power to change the future and make history. Our country faces many challenges, and the work we have ahead of us is going to be really tough. I'm certain that if we set aside our differences and come together as a nation, we will make a positive change. It won't be easy, and I'm going to need your help. I urge you to remain curious, creative, and fearless. Students like you are the future to our great nation, and it's important that you speak up on the issues that matter most. When you make your voice heard, adults listen. I wish you the best in the years ahead, and look forward to seeing where your future takes you. Study hard, keep challenging yourself, and be kind. Sincerely, Joe Biden. So
That's
that's the one thing
awesome.
I
Yeah.
got. I was really not expecting your response, and I was really happy when I got one.
Yeah, that's something that like you could keep forever and like always look back on, and
Yeah.
that's really
Well,
cool.
unfortunately, I put a little hole in it when I was opening. I was not really careful when opening the mail, but
Oh no. Well, at least you
yeah,
got like what's written on it, and I'm sure you still have like the signature and everything.
yeah.
Uh, But yeah, thank you again for coming on Incited. And I'm just wondering, where can people listening to Incited find you and find Sang online?
So, people can find me on Instagram. My username is rye.an, rye.ane. And then if anybody's interested in Sang, the website is sangclass.org, CENG CLASS.org.
Yeah, well, thank you again so much for. Oh, wait. I have one more question. And this is sort of a question that I'm trying to ask everyone that doesn't really have much to do what I'm talking about in the podcast, but as sort of a final question. If you were
Yeah.
locked in a room with one person, alive or dead, for 1 hour, who would that person be?
Well, that's a great question. And if I were locked in a room, I feel like I would want to meet someone named Grace Hopper. And this is a woman that has done a lot in the computer science industry. And she broke down a lot of barriers for women in technology. And it's a huge inspiration because we're also trying to break down barriers for people in technology to allow everybody to have access to it, right? So I'd be happy if I had the opportunity to talk to her about maybe her experiences, some insights, or even some advice on how to continue empowering, well, the underrepresented minorities in the world.
That's awesome. I had no idea who she was before this, so I'm definitely gonna do more research and like look into her. But yeah, thank you so much again for the interview, and thank you for being here. And everybody, make sure to go check out sangclass.org. All right. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Incited. Be sure to subscribe so you get notified when the next episode is released. And do not forget to check out CENG, that's CENG, at sangclass.org, CENGCLASS.org. And don't forget to check out Ryan's Instagram at rye.an, that's RYE period ANE. And then you can find Incited on TikTok, Instagram, and Threads under at Incited Podcast. That's INSIGHTED podcast. And more information at incitedpodcast.com. See you next time.